Building a business is a grind, but the best lessons, they come after the fact. The Après Business Podcast is where your host, Becca Babicz, sits down with entrepreneurs, marketers, and growth pros to talk about what worked, what didn't, and what they'd do differently next time. No fluff, no corporate jargon, just real, down-to-earth conversations about scaling, marketing, and standing out. So grab a seat, kick back, and let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. How's it going? Becca here, host of the Après Business Podcast. I am so excited for today's guest, Wylie Robinson, the CEO and co-founder of Rumpl. Wylie, how's it going? Tell us who you are and what you do.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. My name's Wylie. I'm actually the former CEO and co-founder of Rumpl, and we can talk about that. But I recently...
Let me start over. What do you want me to say?
No, leave it in. This is good. No, I mean, I was the CEO for 10 years. And last October, I hired a general manager. And while I still, technically, this person reports to me as the chairman of the board of the company, I don't function on a daily basis as the CEO. Like, I don't necessarily make the P&L decisions that I made for the decade prior. I'm more focused now on like product and honestly, like any major disaster we have to work through, like this tariff thing, I'm all over right now. But as far as like daily business operations, I'm no longer managing that.
Very cool. And how long did you run the business until you moved into this, transitioned into this role?
So I started with a co-founder in 2013. You know, legally for the first 2 years, I think I was like treasurer or something like that, like on the actual incorporation paperwork. And my co-founder was the CEO. 2 years into that, there was a conflict between, me and the other co-founder and our two employees at the time. And he had sort of a different vision for where to take the company as well. And so he left the business. But up until that point, we were very much running it together. I mean, I didn't feel like I was reporting to him. I kind of led the fundraising and sort of brand strategy at that time. So I guess from 2016 until 2024, I was the official legal chief executive officer of the business. So 8-9 years, something like that.
Yeah.
I just rounded to about a decade, because I think in those beginning years, it was like, when it's you and a co-founder, you're both running the company. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's pretty impressive to be out of the grind of the business in 10 years, because I've been running Fall Line Digital for about going on 8 years, and I am nowhere near close to that. So I think that's a tremendous accomplishment in just 10 years to start a business, run it, and now actually be at a position where you're not in the weeds of the business.
I mean, just quick point of clarity on that. I mean, I'm still very much in the weeds of the business, but it's like I kind of focus on the most mission critical projects and problems. Like I mentioned, it's basically me and our head of operations are like in charge of figuring out where we're going to get our product made with this whole thing. Any major recruiting, I'm heavily involved in. Any major new employee onboarding, I'm heavily involved in. It's like the daily sort of like, what are we doing this week? How do we set targets? How do we make sure forecasts are in, holding the channel owners accountable? That part of it I'm out of. Yeah.
And that's your happy place, I assume. I assume that you've always kind of wanted to be there, or you graduated to that.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have a vision for how this could be my happy place, but the big sort of mission critical problems that I've been dealt since bringing on this new general manager have been like very stressful. Yeah. So I would not say that I'm yet in my happy place. I'm still working just as hard as I was, but I'm hoping to sort of migrate into a role that fulfills me more and leverages my strengths more than just jumping on all the grenades.
Don't have it all figured out yet.
No, definitely not.
Spoiler alert, Wylie's a human, and he's working through this just like the rest of us. So but I don't know. You do make it look easy. So backstory, it's not as easy as it looks, and Wylie's still working on that. And so I wasn't going to go here right yet, but I think I will, because you brought it up a few times. Tariffs in China. Rumpl is manufactured in China. You have been dealt with a handful over the last 2 weeks, even since last time we talked. So much has changed. How are you doing?
I feel confident in our strategies to get product. I mean, that was literally sort of the big question, is like, can we get product? We have our spring 25 product line is in the warehouse here in the States. We have some, product from prior seasons that didn't fully sell through that's still at the warehouse. But like we run relatively lean on inventory. We're good at managing our inventory. And so our plan is to flow inventory each month and, fulfill demand through the rest of the year. And that all kind of came to a stop. We stopped all POs, stopped all production, and just like resumed business planning as if we have no more inventory to sell other than what's on shore right now. And so I feel good about the progress we're making to seeing a light at the end of the tunnel as far as like, can we get inventory onshore at a reasonable price to sell? But it's been, pretty much all consuming for at least 2.5, 3 weeks. I mentioned before we started recording, I'm going to China tomorrow for a little over a week and going to be visiting a whole bunch of current and potentially new partners. I've learned, this is maybe a silver lining. I've learned a ton about how products are categorized and designated for tariffs. So literally each franchise that we offer, we're going franchise by franchise and determining how to adjust those supply chains to have the tariff impact that is less burdensome than the 145 that's currently on China. So I'm doing okay. I mean, I'm not psyched about doing this work, but I think we're navigating through it well. We have really good partners that are helping us. And fortunately we have a decent amount of inventory. I mean, we're not as lean and low as we'd want to be. So we have, a few months of runway of inventory to sell. And again, like really flexible, supportive partners overseas that are also dealing with this.
And you've had a really good experience with China. Like manufacturing over there. Tell me a little bit about your team over there, why you decided to work with them. For those who are listening who don't know, your product is super unique. You're using recycled plastic bottles to, repurpose this material that would otherwise probably be discarded and turn it into something really cool. It's really unique, right? And you've had a really good experience so far with China. So tell me more about that.
Yeah. So high level, we're dual sourced. We work with two different supply chains. One is a factory direct relationship where we actually interface with the factories and mills and coordinate, all those materials going to the right place and cut, sew and everything. And the other supply chain we have is a trading partner relationship where there's one entity that manages all that complexity for us. There's pros and cons to both, but we have those dual sources, both of whom we're working with on a solution for this current situation. But both are based out of China. And, I just have had really good experiences with both. I mean, they value in what we're doing. The trading partner in particular has been with me for 9 years. And actually the CEO of the company has made a personal investment in Rumpl. And so like sees the value of the brand and obviously seeing the growth through the purchase orders we write him. And yeah, just like really helpful on a whole variety of different issues. I mean, whether it's, sourcing raw material from potentially a new vendor if supply gets cut short from the current one, or helping with product development, or in the beginning, we actually had them do all of our freight and all of our transportation of goods as well. We now have that in-house, but they helped with that. And it was just like a really good way for us to get going, especially in the beginning when we didn't have like a stood up operations team that could focus on that. And so that's just the relationship side and sort of the service that they provide, but the quality of the products we get from them is also really good. And yeah, I don't have a lot of negative things to say about our experience working with China on this category of products. Since I think the tariff and relationship with China discussion is now very much in like the mainstream news cycle and everybody's kind of more tuned into it, I am a believer that certain industries should be onshored. Things that are more essential to our security, more essential to like critical industries like technology and potentially parts of the auto industry that are not currently here. But like, I don't really care if textiles and clothing and footwear and outdoor gear and things like that are not made in the United States. I don't want to say I don't care, but there's a good supply chain, a good international supply chain that allows those products to be made at a price that US consumers can buy them at. And the quality is really good and everything. So I am not for this like blanket, tariffing of everyone without a little bit more precision. And it sounds like the objective long-term is to get more precise with this, but the blunt object that was used to start this conversation has been very challenging for not just me, but anybody that I speak to that's in a consumer products industry.
Yeah. And you mentioned that, like it's basically like turned your world upside down, right? It's like not that you can't overcome these challenges and not that you're not up for this challenge. It's just another business challenge. Like you've got this, but like you'd much rather be focusing on all these other things that you could be doing. So yeah, I'm curious on that front. Like, how do you plan for this uncertainty right now? Are you like, can you like, what can you actively do? Right. Like, cause I think in life, you can only control what you can control. And the rest is like, you've got to just roll with it. And so I'm curious if you have anything that you've been able to do, or you're planning out the next 6 months to year, or the next 4 years, knowing that it's going to be pretty unpredictable from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, like at a basic level, an executive team of any business, their job is to plan the business. And it becomes really difficult to plan the business and allocate resource and tell the people executing the strategy what to do if you don't have clarity on what the rules on the field are. And so that's been the biggest challenge, is like having to plan the business with these shifting tiles underneath our feet. The way that we're doing it is we're planning with the information we know that day. And, that's like really underselling the amount of work that goes into creating a plan. But basically, like we're putting inputs into our model, not just our quarterly model, but like our 3-year model, as if the rules on the field today, when we're making that model, are the rules on the field. And I think that that's the only thing you can do, really. You can't sit and like wait until the tariff comes down or wait until a deal gets made or something like that, because you just don't know. All you know is what's happening that day. And so it's been just like a huge amount of work and challenge. And what I was saying before we started recording is like, I mean, it is interesting work. It's like a puzzle you're trying to solve, but we had this whole plan we wanted to execute, before Liberation Day. And then that happened, and like the plan kind of goes out the window and you have to build a new plan. And so it's just like a lot of starting and stopping and reprioritizing of things, and just thinking about how the year is going to shape up way differently. I mean, as of now, until hopefully something comes out of this trip that I'm taking tomorrow, we are planning that the inventory we have on hand today is the inventory we have on hand. And we just don't know if we're going to be able to get more products into our warehouse this year. And so we have to plan the business as if that's what we have to sell. And what that implies is like, at least in our case, we're not like a super cash flush business. I think most businesses that are roughly our size are not that way. We have a decent cash balance, but it's not like endless amount of cash. And so what we need to do is try to extract every dollar of margin we can out of each one of those individual units that we have on hand. And what that means is like really rigorous prioritization of channels. Like whichever channel you're going to get the best contribution out of, that's where you need to move the inventory. And there's some exceptions to that. Like if you have a retail relationship that's taken years to pioneer and you don't want to just like leave that partner high and dry, you do allocate some inventory to them, but it's certainly not what they wanted. And it's certainly not what you wanted to sell them. And so like in our case, it's a lot of moving inventory out of channels that are not as profitable into ones that are. And on top of that, also like rewrite sizing the OpEx of the business so that it supports whatever you think your forecasted revenue is going to be with the current inventory. So yeah, it's super hard. I'm not doing all this modeling work, by the way, too. Like, our VP of finance and Josh, our general manager, working through this mostly in our inventory planner, but I'm in the room and my voice is obviously important in that room. And it's really hard to have a strong point of view when there's just so much shifting underneath you.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, if the tariffs don't come down, like, can you still manufacture in China, or are you going to have to go somewhere else? And like, have you even explored that of like another place?
Yeah. So
on the table.
So this is the piece of this that I've learned quite a bit about in the last couple of weeks, which has been interesting. All products, they get tariffed. But the HTS code that category of products is assigned has different regulation around where the country that the product is deemed to be from and where it's tariffed from. Most of Rumpl's products are what's called country of origin products. And what that basically means is that the origin of the raw materials going into the product is where that country is tariffed from. So in our case, because most of our products that way, we have a couple of products that are tariffed country of transformation, which is I'll talk about in a second, but mostly for country of origin, we're going to be moving our material sources to a non-China source, moving those materials into China, into our current cut sew facility, and doing the exact same work we've been doing, but we're just not getting raw materials from China anymore. And so we're able to keep parts of our supply chain intact, but like this again goes like franchise by franchise for all the different things we make. Some of them have this country of origin designation, some of them are country of transformation. And country of transformation is what it sounds like. It's like, where you actually assemble the thing. And so for those products that are country of transformation, we're going to need to find non-Chinese cut sew facilities to build the products and ship them out of there. And so it's just like this really big, challenging puzzle you need to figure out. I mean, our products are relatively simple. And the material contents of our products are like so heavily weighted towards 1 to 2 materials. It's actually like an easier challenge than if you were assembling electronics or something that just had more input parts. So I feel for the companies that have to manage through that. But in our case, again, like the vast majority of our products, those country of origin ones. And so we can actually get similar materials from other locations and move them into China for cut sew. Now, one thing that we also learned is if you pull materials from 2 different countries and then move them into China, that automatically flips that product into a country of transformation. And so if you get your insulation from Vietnam and your, 30D poly shell from Taiwan, that can't get sewn in China and have country of origin designation. That will then become country of transformation. And so it's just, like figuring out where we can get supply of the same or similar materials at the same or similar costs. How do you piece together all the linkage materials? So like, I'm getting a little detailed here, but maybe this is good. But like the vast majority of our products include mostly 30D recycled polyester. So wherever we find that source of 30D recycled polyester, because all the other materials need to come from the same location, we now need to find a new source for fleece and a new source for 50D, which we use on some products, a new source for FR material, fire resistant material. Those all now need to come from that same country that the 30D is coming from. So it's like this big map you kind of have to create and move in that direction until something changes. And maybe you have to shift your strategy and actually move things entirely out of China, for example, if like geopolitical tensions get really crazy and you actually can't even get product out of China. So that's like something we've thought about as well. You kind of have like a short-term strategy, and then the longer term is like just broadly, how do we move the supply chain?
Yeah. So is that, I know that's not like the goal, but is that where you are feeling that you guys have to, what you have to do in the next, so you're feeling an immense amount of pressure that you have got to get Rumpl out of China?
Yes. And, the fact is, like, this is no secret, but like most of the factories that we're going to be talking to in other countries, Vietnam, South Korea, Taiwan, Cambodia, like they're Chinese factories setting up operations in other countries, even the Philippines. And so, you're not like weakening these Chinese companies that do manufacturing. You're just having to move your operation to another country.
Yeah. And the US is not on the table of possible places where you could produce final product.
No, I mean, there's a bunch of factors for that. Like, number one, I don't think you'd get there on the labor costs. I mean, that's just like a straight up, that's going to be very challenging. Number two, like there's a skill level that's been established in these supply chains overseas for these types of products, for sewing, for textiles, that's like really high. And, they do a really good job with the actual manufacturing of the product. So that I don't have high confidence you could replicate in the United States. And then I think the biggest one is just the ecosystem of materials and small parts and other things that you need to make the product. Now, it's not just like 2 materials that are sewn together. There's like little fasteners and trims and screen printing and digital printing and all this stuff that we need for our products that just doesn't exist here. So yeah, it's really not an option we're looking at all.
Not an option at all. Wow. But that's I was going to ask, like, yeah, at what point do you kind of make that decision? Like, we can't feasibly manufacture and source in China anymore. It sounds like you've mentally already made that switch and have to already start to plan out from here on out. Is like, okay, what does the viability of this business look like if we don't manufacture in China? I didn't know you were there already. That's like, even to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, because it's just so much work and so much, like, it's just a complete 180 from what you guys have been doing and everything that you've built. And I don't know, it feels like a big pivot, but yeah, what are you supposed to do? And I guess that's what you're doing, is what you've laid it all out there on the table. You have your flow charts, if this, if that, if this, if that, if this is that, and this is where you guys are going.
Yeah, again, I mean, like, I think the way that we're operating here, or not, I know the way we're operating here is just like, what are the rules on the field today? And you can't, to the point I made before, you can't be like, well, what if China comes back online? What if the tariff goes back down? That may happen, but I'm not going to sit here and like build plans and build forecasts and allocate resources and keep people employed if that's just not actually what the rules on the field are. So yeah,
it just feels like the rules just change so quickly that it's like, it feels like it could just be pulled back completely, and then now you're going this way, and then it's like, wait. But yeah, I mean, I guess you're just doing the best that you can with the information you have at this exact moment. That's probably all you can exactly do. So yeah, well, wild times. I mean, completely wild. A month ago, your business was completely different, and now it's completely different again. But I think
that's a wrap on part 1 of this incredible conversation with Wylie Robinson. From rethinking international manufacturing to making tough operational calls in real time, Wylie gave us a behind-the-scenes look at what it really takes to keep an e-commerce business moving when the rules change overnight. But we're not done yet. In part 2, we shift gears to talk about brand authenticity, staying approachable while scaling, and what it means to build something that truly resonates. You won't want to miss it, so hit subscribe and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Après Business Podcast. That's a wrap on this episode of the Après Business Podcast. If you got value from today's conversation, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an insight-packed episode. If you're feeling generous, leave us a review. It helps more business builders like you find the show. Got a story or a question you'd love us to cover? Connect with us at falllinedigital.com. That's FALLINEDIGITAL.com. Until next time, keep pushing forward, keep learning, and don't forget to enjoy the journey.